We got a video
Next up
about
is a.
Street League.
This is fun. This is a
Yeah.
lot of fun. I'm excited about this. I've been asking for this for a long time. For somebody to do something to innovate racing and make some fun in racing, and this is like exactly what I wanted. I just didn't know I wanted it.
For years, drone racers have been pushing the boundaries, splitting the horizon,
The hell
where the
is he doing?
possible and the impossible
It's like a Dremel
collide.
tool.
Every
fine.
millisecond we shed culminates in the victories we've earned.
Sparks
We tune,
feels good.
we train, we expend every trick in the book to defeat the clock. But what if we had one last option? Introducing Boost Mode, drone racing's first new game mechanic since crash recovery. Starting today, you have a new strategic option at your disposal. Find the optimal spots on the track to deploy one of 3 momentary boosts. Get ready or get past as you boost your way to becoming the Street League drone racing champion.
So one of the things that I think people need to understand this feature is that Street League has a pre-compiled version of Betaflight that they require people to use that limits the RPM of the motors so that everyone is on. It's because it's a spec class. And rather than saying everyone must use the same KV of motor, because even that, there's ways to sort of cheat it. What they do is in Betaflight, they monitor the RPM of the motors, and then they limit the motor's RPM. And that's actually a really clever way of sort of leveling the playing field. But then they realized, oh, well, we could really gamify this. And that's really cool. Like like playing Mario Kart. You know, you get whatever the power-up is in Mario Kart that makes you go faster. The mushroom?
Yeah, the mushroom.
Makes the mushroom.
Yeah. Also, it's interesting because I think I was listening to them talk a little bit about this on a live stream they did. State of the League, I think. Street of the League. I don't remember because that's also a League of Legends podcast. So I get confused. But anyway, they do they were talking about this and they were saying like, you know, right now drone racing, unless somebody messes up, passing isn't really a thing. Like passing is kind of a thing, but if you're like a couple feet in front of somebody and you're both flying the same way and you're kind of hitting the corners the same, like your passing is from you making mistakes or something like that. But now somebody could choose to pass you. And I think that's kind of interesting. Also, you can mess up when you boost. You get 5 seconds. And if you mess up, you lose the boost, right? And you could save boosts. So if you're doing really well, you know, you could keep the boost back, and maybe people don't realize you have 2 of your boosts left instead of 1, and now you boost for 10 seconds at the
people
end,
won't know how many boosts. There won't be like a heads-up display that shows you how many boosts the other pilots have.
For other pilots, they're not going to. Yeah, you're not going to have that communication. Those have your boosts, right?
Interesting. Like the boost indicator isn't like in the OSD where it like shows you number of boosts left. Is that like secret?
I'm not sure. Well, I mean, I guess you could get that from the person watching the other OSDs in the feed, is what you're saying.
If you had a spotter.
Like a spotter, yeah.
It's great, though, because like you said, Blunty, like at the very highest levels of racing, what determines who wins is the person who can take the optimal line the fastest. But if you watch the top racers, they're taking almost identical lines, very, very small differences in their lines. And it's just who can do it the fastest. And there's very little opportunity for passing. The places where passing usually happens is the other guy gets nervous and blows out a corner or crashes, and then you take over. There's nothing like drafting in automobile racing where you can draft somebody and like pass them around a corner or something. And this really opens that up. If there's a long straight and you have a boost available, you could choose to use that boost and maybe get the pass. Or take a wider line but with more power and be able to pass. And I think it's really intriguing.
Yeah, and also I would say this could definitely inspire course designs, right? Because maybe you would make it so you can't do a straight off 5 second boost. You would want to avoid that maybe, so it's harder to decide when to boost, right?
Yeah.
And how to use it. Or maybe you would
because
I think there's a
tighter track will give you less opportunity to use the boost. So the track designers
have to be like smart about where you're using it and like how you would utilize the extra RPM, because you get it says 1,000 extra RPM is basically what it gives you, kind of a boost of RPM.
Much.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're spinning at already, but yeah, it's a bit of a boost.
A little bit of a boost. Well, that's really cool. It needs to have, and I don't know if it already has this, but I think to really make it the best in terms of audience, because Street League is as much about audience viewing as it is about pilot experience. That's what I've always thought about 7-inch and larger racing. The advantage is that it brings the audience in more because they can see the drones better. Of course, people tried X-Class racing, but that didn't, quite go as far. But I think what it really needs for maximum audience enjoyment is to have the number of boosts visible on the OSD, and then also to be able to see when people are boosting and how much boost time they have left, because that'll really up the intensity, knowing that, he used his last boost, 5 seconds left in the boost, and really that's really cool.
Yeah, neat stuff.
What if they had oh, go ahead.
Just gonna say, a lot of people in chat are referencing hey, they need to have effects on other drones or position-based effects and stuff. I think that stuff comes down the line when you get better ways to communicate that info to each of the drones. I could see in a year or two Express LRS having a protocol where all the drones with Express LRS, you put the binding phrase on the special box, and that special box can transmit extra info to the receiver to change input commands or something in these weird situations. Who knows? Because you got to figure out how do you do almost instantaneous communication to each drone and then affect them in some way, right? So,
what if you did like a boost gate? Okay, you have a gate, and the gate is a suboptimal line, but if you fly through the gate, you get a boost.
Right.
And you can shoot out of the gate, and if you're good enough to do it, you get to, I don't know. Then everybody would just take that gate, and nobody would fly the other line. So
that's interesting.
Very interesting.
It's tough because then if you're so far ahead, you might not, but then you might make a mistake.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you're way out in the lead, you might take the slower line and the less risky line.
So
it would need to be a big boost
with
a sharp turn at the end. So if you're not good, you're just gonna waste it. I don't know. Yeah. Or
I think,
what if there was a gate that if you flew through it, you got an extra boost?
Right, and actually, you just rack
you
up.
You could reload your boosts. Oh man.
That's kind of how Velocidrone works, right? Or for battery though, that's how they do battery. Is you fly through because you have to hit the recharge gates.
Yeah.
To do the battery.
J Rice FPV in the chat says I'm spoiling the future. He says they have a lot of things planned. Apparently, some of the ideas that I'm throwing out, they already have in mind. He also points out that when you boost, your LEDs get super bright for a second while you're boosting, and that's the signal that you've boosted. J Rice, what % increase in RPM is this? You say 1,000 RPM. On a 5-inch drone, that's not that much. It's at top throttle, you're going 25, 30,000 RPM. So, what % does that mean? I'd be interested to know. Anyway, we'll see. It's not a ton, but it's probably 10%. So not nothing.